This is just a quick update to my previous video on the 0.02 version, my first crack at a PCB for the 286 core system. In that last video, I talked about this PCB and mentioned that the component I used for the 286 itself really did not have the appropriate pinouts for what I was needing, and that was something to do with the component I chose out of Easy EDA. Whether it was something I pulled from the community that way or somewhere along the lines I messed something up, either way, that ended up not working. I have since corrected that, and what you're seeing on the screen right now is an auto router running, and this auto router has been running for over 30 hours now, and it still has not completed. I've mentioned in a previous video, I've never seen this actually complete, and I think I'm running into the same thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it where it's at. It has, just to point out, the VIA count is at 696, and when it first started, so it did the initial routing, and then it goes into an optimization phase, and then it tries to cut down the number of VIAs. It was around 1,000 VIAs when it started this process, and it's pretty much stalled out at 696. It's been there for hours now. So I think I can safely get out of this, and I'm going to import this back into Easy EDA, and we can take a quick look at what we have there. So let me do that. Okay, so here is what this update looks like after importing all of that routed information. And I think I'll save it real quick, and maybe I can pull up the 2D and 3D version just to show you what this is starting to look like as far as an update. And so if I zoom back, this might be a decent place to look at this. And actually, if I jump over to the schematic, the main thing I had to do is I had to pull out the previous processor that I had for the 8286 here. And I think I even have that. I could pull that up. So it had looked like this using this component. And that's the one that I said did not have the appropriate pinout. So I moved from that over to this, and I applied that to the latest schematic for my system. So it has all the SPI support built into it. I've got the SD card. I have the Arduino Nano on here even. And so when I get into this actual PCB here, this is still a 2-layer PCB. I'm trying to stay at a 2-layer just because of cost. But as far as differences from the last version that I spun, I do have the VIA on here, and that is providing really SPI support. I have an SD card reader that will be right on the board. I have my Nano up here. I still have 2 ISA slots. I did put in pull up or pull down resistors here, and it's selectable if I'm going to have pull ups or pull downs. For this VIA, I did put in a bunch of pin headers so that I can connect more SPI devices, both to port A and port B. For example, that 8-character 7-segment LCD or LED display, I didn't actually put a spot on the board for it, but I did put a pin header for it down here, so I can just simply have it sitting down off to the bottom of the board if I want to use it. Or if I come up with other SPI devices, I can just tap them into the appropriate SPI pins right here. I also spread out my ROMs a little bit, my flash memory. I wanted a little bit more space, and I'm going to actually go in and double check that this is enough space. I'm going to print this out in actual size and just do a couple checks with that. The first revision, as I was looking at it, it was a little tight, and I wanted to give myself a little bit more room on that. Other than that, this is pretty close to the same as the original version. The main thing, of course, is the corrected pinout of the processor. So as I get in and start looking at that here, I should see that is going to be a much better output based on what I'm needing to do. And I see the clock is right here, and that's where I'm expecting it compared to on that last revision. The clock was down here on a different pin, and that was just one example. That was the first pin I was trying to validate, and identified it was way off. So if I open this up in a 3D view real quick, so this is what it's going to start to look like. But I think that's about it for this. So I'm going to give this another run. I am kind of curious to see how this is going to price up as a 2-layer board, because it is a bit bigger at this point. So let me go ahead and just check the price on that. And I suppose I'd better do a DRC check real quick, make sure this looks okay. If I go with a quantity 5, $30 for 5 of these. And I will update you as I get this in. It will likely be January before I come back to this board and take a look at what we get and if that updated version works better.